Good morning and happy Sunday to everybody out there. This is going to be another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and today we're going to have a little rural talk. I know there is a good majority of you that enjoy these. I know there's a handful of you that hate these, and there's probably a bunch of people in between, but here we go. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I have seen this particular example that I'm going to use a few times. It seems to be getting more and more prevalent, popping up in different YouTube things, more over on different social medias like Facebook and Telegram and some of the other ones and things like that. And what do I mean? All right. So the example is another of those moral dilemmas. How long do you wait during an SHTF situation before you start doing questionable things? And the example that usually they use is going to be before you start looting things yourself. Okay. Now, they use that term. I'm not really fond of that one. Uh, you know, I'm more into the scavenging or gathering, right? And it brings up a really good one, and especially as you start reading people's replies to this, and I really like the ones that really list out their thought process because I want to see how they came to that conclusion. And so, if we start breaking it down to where we kind of dig deep into this one, you have kind of that 50-50, right? Because if you go too soon, you start seeing looting and rioting downtown, buildings being burned, chaos ensued. It's in a bunch of major cities, more than a couple years ago. We're talking about major cities in every single state, and chaos is ensuing and all that. So you're like, man, I need to go out and gather things now, right? And so what happens if it's too soon? Well, now you're a part of all that looting, right? That's theft. You're going to end up paying some sort of consequence for that. And so it brings it into the other realm of it. What happens if you wait too late? Man, I don't think that this is going to last. I'm gonna hold out a few more days, another week, maybe 2 weeks or whatever. Really make sure this is an SHTF situation. Well, if you wait too long, is there anything left for you to go and gather resources for yourself? So now you walk that fine line because, and real quick, I've even seen people that are like, well, I'm not going to go out at all. I'm going to wait until it's uh, a month or 3 months into it before I go do anything. I want to be 1,000% sure that, it's a make or break situation and that the entire civilized area has completely collapsed. Well, I mean, I kind of see everybody's point of view, and to be honest, it's a difficult one to answer. A lot of these moral kind of questions seem to be and it's going to come down to an individual basis, if you will. So let's talk about the first one. So you jump straight in. Well, you can put yourself into a lot of danger because a lot of people are probably going to be going out in that fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? And so you can put yourself into a great danger. You can put yourself into an unnecessary danger. There's a lot of risk in going early, but then again, there's a lot of reward. And so, if it is that truly start of a collapse of society, then if you can safely manage to get to a place or places and start gathering up a bunch of resources, supplies, materials, and things like that, then your reward, your fruit of your labor, could make it very well worth it, right? You could come out kind of looking like a king or whatever. You could have mountains and mountains of stuff that you could use for yourself. You can have it for trade and bartering. You could have it to where it kind of sets you and your family or your group up for quite a while. You could double, even triple what you already have. Now, let's go into the other aspect. You wait too long. Well, if you wait too long, then yes, you're going to run into that risk that everything of value, for the most part, is probably already gone. You could have it to where you are going to be traveling a much greater distance in order to kind of sift through the rubble. You're going to have to get really, really creative of where you go. You know, if you have July 1st, now I'm throwing this out there, I'm not predicting anything, we're just exampling everything out. Let's say that July 1st, some of these protests and looting and rioting and everything starts, and you start seeing it all over the news and social media and all the things like that. And so you're like, all right, let's keep an eye on this. Well, 2 weeks go by and it's still all over everything. Things seem to be getting worse and all that. And you're like, okay, I get it. It's getting worse, but it's still, there's a good possibility that this is not it. And so let's say that you continue to wait and wait until all of a sudden there's no more communications. There's no more internet. The grid goes down, things like that. Uh, how do you know? You know, you still are going to have to take that uh, risk that society has collapsed. And so you are going to have to make that decision of one, are you going to do it or not? Two, at what lines need to be crossed in order for you to say game on? Okay. Uh, I would say that depending on the situation, uh, everybody is going to scavenge and scout out things at some point in time. Others, it may be a month. Another group, it may be 6 months. Another group may just be one of the ones that are opportunistic, if you will. And so they'll just be out scouting things like a major body of water or hunting, and they come across the building, see that it's abandoned, and go, hey, we weren't out here planning on this, but here it is. It's right here. We're just going to go ahead and use this. So it also brings into the question as well of you have to be careful of what your red lines are. If your red lines is that the grid goes down, well, the grid goes down all the time. Okay, we have a failing infrastructure. That's no secret. That's not even a controversy. And so what part of the grid? Is it all of it? Or, is it some of it? Because if your red line is a power outage, uh, that happens a lot all over the entire globe, really. Okay, so maybe it's a length of time. Maybe the power has to be out for 3 days. Well, you're still running into that risk of going too soon or waiting too long. Okay, what happens if you really plan it out? What happens if you go, all right, well, the power needs to go out, um, cell phone needs to have disruption to where I can't make a phone call, send a text message, get on the internet, no social media, uh, you know, different things like that. You really make this big up list. Okay, well, hypothetically, if all of that happens, let's say that there's some sort of cyber attack, and you go, it has to be everything all at once, all the communications, all of the infrastructure and all of that has to be out for 24 hours. Because if all of that happens, where you have all that stuff happen, then there's a really, really good chance that, it is. Okay. So let's say that you waited a day, day and a half, nothing's back on, all that. Do you still go? Okay. What happens if after 5 days, they get everything all sorted out and things start going back, to normal? They're not going to just forgive somebody kicking out a window and taking supplies from a place, right? Again, it's still theft at the end of the day. And you have to run that risk. At what point in time is theft versus survival? And so you still have to make that judgment call. And when it comes down to a lot of it, it's a really, really big moral question because, again, Stealing is stealing. What is not yours is not free for the taking, so to speak. And so you run that risk of maybe you're out scouting and you come across a place that looks abandoned. Well, maybe that's somebody else's stash house. Maybe they mean you absolutely no harm whatsoever. You just make an assumption, man, this is just an abandoned property. There's, a little bit of food and supplies and stuff. I'm going to gather it up and take it home. Uh, okay, there's a lot into it because you will probably have the people that go, well, hey, it's just sitting there completely unguarded. Everything looks abandoned. Everything, it's up for the grabs. You can take it. What happens if that's your stash house? Somebody else just stumbles upon it. They don't mean you any harm. They're not trying to do anything against you. They just happen to stumble upon your stuff. I get it. And this is going to be one of them controversial things. That's why I saved it for a rural talk, right? Is because I don't know if there's really a right or a wrong answer to this. Now, yes, you can get extremes. The first hint of anything, you run out and start, looting a Walmart. Okay, that's probably a bad idea, right? Or the people that go, um, I'm going to wait 2 years before I go out and scavenge. Oh, I really hope that you're really well stocked up and supplied, right? So there's that happy middle ground, I would suppose, somewhere, because you also run into the fact that supplies is supplies. It doesn't care who uses it. And so the supplies that could aid somebody that does want to do something nefarious against you or your group, if they stumble upon it first, they're probably not going to have any sort of issue taking it and utilizing it to strengthen themselves, so that way they become a little bit more powerful in some future conflict. And so in that aspect, maybe it would be wise that you go ahead and you take it. uh, there's a lot, okay, and we can bicker back and forth and go and really kind of get in the nuts and bolts of all this, wade through the weeds, so to speak. And I'm sure that there's a bunch of different viewpoints that go into this, okay. It's Again, it's going to be one of those ones where it's going to be what you can live with, what you can do and still sleep at night. When we're talking about survival, again, there's no right or wrong way to really prep. When we talk about prep, the goal is to survive whatever we're trying to get through, and the way that you gauge that is at the very end, who lived and who didn't. You could have somebody with a bunch of gear and supplies and all that, and they didn't make it, and you have somebody with no gear and no supplies and they did make it. Who's the winner? I mean, it boils down to that kind of simple principle that the best way that you can gauge a prepper is, if an SHTF situation happens, where do they stand when the smoke clears? So yeah, there's a lot of people that talk a big game. There's a lot of people that push a lot of product and come off high and mighty. But I guess if that said event ever happens, if the balloon ever goes up, maybe we'll unfortunately get to see who was all talk and show, and who actually you know was that true survivalist. So again, hoping that that doesn't happen, right? I like my air condition and my modern conveniences and things like that, but the chances and the possibilities are there. It's very real, and so that's why we do what we do, right? All right, I think it's enough of that, right? So if you made it to this far in the video, guess what? You rock. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. If you like these sort of videos, then stay tuned, because we do a lot of various videos, whether we talk about the news or whether we talk about different prepping ideas, or we just have these little rural talk conversations where we just vent a few things out and get the old noodle rolling. So stay tuned, because there's definitely more information to come. I hope you guys have an amazing day and a blessed day. And I do want to remind you that above all else, please remember to remain united, because we're all prepping in this together.